Hello everyone and welcome to Tony's Healthy Kitchen. I am your host, Tony La Ferrara. Each episode of our 10-part video series will focus on a different health topic that is important to our well-being as we get older. With the help of our guests, we will explore and learn more about each topic from a medical perspective, and we will also focus on healthy food options, fitness tips, and delicious, easy to prepare recipes that will help us improve and maintain a healthy lifestyle as we get older. Well, today's episode, it's all about fat. The good fat, the bad fat, and the ugly fat. Now, we know that our body needs fat for many important functions, and we should include it in our daily diet. But when it comes to nutrition, fats have a really bad reputation. And some of this is well justified. Certain types of fat may play a role in heart disease, diabetes, cancer, obesity. Some fats are better for us and help promote good health, and some are not that healthy. So to help us understand the difference and determine which fats to avoid and which to eat in moderation is our guest, registered dietitian Michelle Fedele. Hello, Michelle.
Hi,
Welcome to Tony's Healthy Kitchen.
How are you? I'm so glad to be here again with you.
Good to see you again, Michelle. Yeah, fats have a bad reputation, don't they? But we need them in our diet. Are they an essential nutrient for our healthy diet?
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely need fat in our diet. It helps us with many body functions as well as helping us absorb certain vitamins like vitamin A, D, and E. So those D drops and those D vitamins we're taking, it's better to take them with a fat. It helps absorb it better. So
Right.
That's important to include it.
And they're also a good source of energy. I mean, fats provide us with more energy than carbs and then protein. Am I right?
Exactly. And also it gives us brain function as well. So especially in the younger years when the child is developing, they need to have enough fat in their diet so we can have good brain development. And that also goes with as we age too. We need to keep the brain and mind sharp, but we can only do that with the good fats, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, no, I mean, we all love fat, and we know that they make everything taste better. They make, the food taste good, but we know that it can also be bad for us. And so we know that not all fats are created equal, Michelle. There are the good ones, and there are some bad ones. So which ones are the good ones?
Well, the good ones is the ones that we want to consume that helps raise our happy cholesterol, which is called our HDL, or high density lipids. And those ones are going to be the unsaturated fats. So you're looking for things on the label that say poly unsaturated or mono unsaturated.
Right.
The good fats.
Right, and the polyunsaturated are also called essential fats, meaning that, the body needs them, but we cannot produce them in our body, so we need to get them from somewhere else.
Exactly. So the polyunsaturated fats have omega-6s in them, and the monounsaturated fats have like omega-3s in them that we know about, like flaxseed, avocado, those kind of things.
Right. And which ones are the bad fats?
The bad fats are called the saturated fats.
Right.
Also, you might have heard of trans fats, which is now banned here in Canada. And those are the ones I want you to look for in the label. And if I can go through a little label education with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
To know. So, for example, I've just picked up this black bean pasta label. Now, what you can see here is that under the fat, it has the total number, which says 5. But it says here saturated and trans. It doesn't say the good fats. So what you need to do is add up the number that says here, hopefully trans is 0. Only try to buy products that have trans fat as 0. So this product has a total of 3 grams of total fat and 0.5 grams of saturated. So you just minus that difference, which then gives us 2.5, and that's all the good fat. So you want that minus number of your total to be higher than the saturated fat. Then you know it's a great product.
Then you know it's a good product. Yeah, no, for sure. Now, you mentioned trans fats before. A lot of countries have abolished trans fats from their products, and at one point you could find them everywhere. and cereal and cookies pretty well everywhere. But a lot of countries, like you mentioned before, have abolished trans fats.
Absolutely. I mean, there's still saturated bad fats that are in the product, which you still have to look for, like hydrogenated, like the word, if you see hydrogenated coconut oil, hydrogenated palm oil, that hydrogenation is, essentially the hardening of the fat at room temperature, which is then very dangerous in terms of clogging arteries. So when you're looking at a label, let's say peanut butter, for example,
right,
you can look for the label to say just peanuts on the ingredient. Some of them very often have sugar, salt, and hydrogenated oils as the first three ingredients. So you definitely want to avoid those.
Right, and the thing about labels is that when you look at a product, you look at a jar, in the front they may say no trans fats. But then when you look at the list of ingredients in the back, you might find other things in there that are not very healthy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the companies are smart. They're trying to sell their products. So as a consumer, we really have to be vigilant in looking at all the labels. So it might say that it's light at the top, but that could just mean that it's light in weight, not light in calories.
Right, exactly.
So looking at the label, the first three ingredients, like the words, is what's basically in the product. So as the list goes down, that means it's less and less and less in the product. So if you're looking for not to have sugar in the product, you want it to be less than the third ingredient, or salt to be less than the third ingredient. And that's the same that goes for the bad fats like palm oils, coconut oil, which seems to be so rampant in the market now, is popular, but it's still a very unhealthy saturated fat.
It is. And, you mentioned palm oil. Oh boy, Nutella is full of palm oil, isn't it? But Nutella is so good. It's so good.
I know. So you can try to make homemade versions of it that we try to do with like regular cacao powder and making your own. I know it's not the same. And sometimes those commercials put those things as breakfast foods and healthy foods, but it's so not. So taking that extra little step and teaching your kids or your grandkids how to look at the labels will really help you in the long run.
What kind of food can we eat that has all of the good stuff, the mono and the polyunsaturated fats?
Sure. So I have some examples here today to show you. So in terms of cooking, I've really been trying to do a lot of sauteing and, mixing my garlic and everything in my pan.
Right.
More water than using the oil. And it does work. I know we're so conditioned by pouring the oil on, but that is just adding extra grams of fat, because every fat gram is 9 calories. So every gram of fat that you see on the label, you have to multiply that by 9 to get your calories. And that's how it's going to add up so quick.
Right.
But the healthy fats here that I have are some olive oil, which is a healthy fat. Canola oil is amazing. It's 0 cholesterol. This would be a good option, as well as avocado oil. Now, in terms of cooking, these two here, the canola and avocado, have a high melting point. So this is about 475 degrees. As close to this is about 400. Whether the olive oil is maybe not the best to cook and saute with, but more to marinate with. Here also we have some nuts. We have some avocados here, of course. Avocados, people give it a bad rap. There's no cholesterol in here. It's high fat though. It's about 40 grams of fat per avocado. So please don't eat one whole avocado at one time. But it's full of monounsaturated fats, good omega-3 fats. So this would be a good use of your fat calories.
Right, and I know we're going to talk about recipes afterwards. But one of my favorite recipes, it includes avocado and dark chocolate. We'll talk about that after.
Oh, yes. I think I might know what you'd be talking about, because my daughter loves to do that too, which is a great trick to sneak in some healthy fats. But we'll talk about that after. No, another question that I get asked a lot is butter or margarine, I get asked that, I think, since the beginning of time. So what I have here for you is a Basel brand, but you're looking for it to say non-hydrogenated on it. Right. And what's interesting about this particular one that does say vegan on it, there's a new one called Oat Beverage that I just saw in the stores recently, also from Basel. And when you read in the front, it has 92% of it is canola oil. And that's that healthy oil that has no cholesterol in it. And so when you're looking for a margarine, make sure it says non-hydrogenated. The butter, some people say, oh, isn't it better because it's natural? But this is not natural. And the butter is full of saturated fats, which are going to clog your arteries and increase your risk for cardiovascular disease, stroke, and also there's been some evidence that having high saturated fats also leads to some dementia and Alzheimer's.
Right. The one thing, Michelle, that I was happy to discover is that Parmesan cheese actually is a good fat.
Yeah, so having cheese is fine to include in your diet if you're doing it less than 20% milk fat. So sometimes you need to find cheeses if you're entertaining or anything that have a little bit higher fat, but leave those for the special occasions. It's not that you can't have dairy, but all the cholesterol comes from animal products. So dairy, meat, eggs, fish, those kind of things. So the more we can do plant-based and less of this high saturated fats from animal products, the less risk it is to increase our cholesterol.
Right. So we were talking before about the trans fats and how bad they are for our health. So what are some examples of trans fats? Where do we find them?
Okay, so they're everywhere. They're really sneaky. So for example, you go through a drive-thru and think you're going to have a coffee and a muffin for breakfast, and you think that's going to be a great, healthy, low-fat choice. But you should think again, because in that muffin, it could be 40, 50 grams, and more than half of it is saturated fats. So that innocent muffin is definitely a no-go. Also in crackers, in croissants, they're pretty much can be hidden in these baked goods that you think are going to be healthy for you, or like pie crusts, stuff like that. So the more you can make it home, you can control what you're putting in there to try to eliminate those extra bad trans fats.
Right, and also things like palm oil, which we talked about before, and coconut oil and ice cream, all of those things. I mean, all of those good things, right? They all have a lot of trans fats in it.
Exactly. And what's so interesting now that, of course, I'm a big proponent of plant-based eating, and now there's all these processed plant-based foods and ice creams with coconut and coconut oil, and those are not good. So even though they're touted as health foods or plant-based, it's not good when there's coconut oil in them. So I would definitely think twice before purchasing those products.
Yeah. Michelle, I want to talk a little bit about saturated fats. Now, not all of them are bad, are they?
Well, we need some fats in our diet, but I would rather you pick things that are the poly and monos and unsaturated. Yeah. We all need fat in our diet, but we want to have good fats that are going to give us benefit to our brain, and help us not have our cholesterol raising. And people say, 80% of the cholesterol is produced by your liver and 20% is what you eat. So who cares? Let's just eat whatever we want. But I can tell you from personal experience and having high cholesterol all my life, the 20% controls a lot. So you do have a lot of power on trying to reduce that intake. And in terms of healthy fats, also what I have here are some legumes here as well. I have some breakfast muesli pitas. And when you look at the back, the saturated fat is only 0.2. So there is a little bit in there, and that's sometimes naturally occurring in the product. Right. I wouldn't put this away and not purchase it because the level of it is so low. It's hard to get zero all across the board, Tony.
Yeah, Michelle, I just, I want to get into the heart disease, question. I mean, we're not doctors, and we're not here to give medical advice. We're talking from the point of view of nutrition that can help us lead a healthier life. Exactly. But the question that I have is, can we prevent or even reverse heart disease by eating a healthy diet?
Absolutely. There's so much studies and research out now talking about lowering the risk of even diabetes and reducing your risk of stroke by eating properly. There are studies that are done that are people who've had high cholesterol and their blood values and start to increase more of whole food, plant-based foods, and their numbers have actually gone down. They've been able to reduce their use of statins to a lower milligram amount or even get off of the statins. So you'll always have that genetic kind of thing behind you if that's what your family history is.
Right.
I like to think about it is that genetic loads the gun, but you don't have to pull the trigger by eating bad foods, you still have a lot of control. And by eating plant-based foods, like I said, personally myself, I have been able to extend my time without going on statins for over 40 years now. And I'm closer to 50 than I am 40. And I've really been trying to eat healthy since I've been 12 years old, following a plant-based diet. And honestly, my numbers really show the proof of it, Tony.
Yeah, no, and I think we can all benefit from it, eating a healthier diet without all of the trans fats. And it's never too late to start.
It's never too late to start. And as I mentioned before, not every day is perfect. We eat about 50 times in a week or 60 times in a week. So 10 times were kind of like a drive-through situation, or you had an event to go to, or you indulged a bit. I'm the type of dietitian that never says the word never.
Yes.
We always try to include things, but as long as we're including more of the healthy things, so 80% of the time, then only 10 to 20% of the time can be fun. So I'll never say no to a patient who wants to indulge in their favorite foods, but most of the time picking healthy things and learning how to cook differently, it's actually kind of fun to find ways to change up your cooking technique.
So Michelle, what about omega-3s? Should we eat more foods with omega-3?
That's a great question, Tony. Omega-3s are really like our way of producing our own blood thinning abilities with eating it. So what's interesting is that we've always been told that you have to get your omega-3s, the best sources are from fish sources. But what's interesting to learn, and interesting for my family to learn too, is that the fish itself, let's say salmon, doesn't produce its own omega-3. It actually eats it from its source of food, which is like seaweed, kelp, other microorganisms in the water. And also omega-3 comes from flaxseed. So let's eliminate the middleman, which is the fish, which does increase your cholesterol because it's an animal product, which is a saturated fat, and just go to eat the flaxseed or eat the seaweed instead. And this way we're getting good source rich of omega-3 that's clean and not going to increase your risk of your triglycerides, which omega-3 helps to lower. Omega-3 also helps with the clotting ability and as well as reducing stroke. And one other point I'll mention, when I used to work in the cardiovascular unit with patients who had a bypass, what's interesting to always ask your doctor before you start taking omega-3 is that if you're already on a blood thinner, omega-3 is a blood thinner too. So double check that you don't take too much of both, and then you don't want too thin of a blood and lots of bruising and other things that can happen.
So I have one question, Michelle, about the Mediterranean diet. Is it still regarded as a healthy choice?
Absolutely. It still holds a test of time. Honestly, I've been learning about nutrition since like the 80s, and it's always been there. It's rich in those monounsaturated fats like the olive oil and grains and fruits and vegetables. So it is a great source. I would just try to focus more on our plate of the grains, legumes, beans, lentils, fruit, and then try to take the chicken and fish and make it less of a feature and push more of the whole grains. But definitely if someone is not ready to go plant-based, definitely picking the Mediterranean diet is the way to go.
So you have any good recipes, Michelle, that you want to share with us?
Yeah, so I did my top favorite ones. There's so many, Tony,
yeah.
Over the years. But here's some easy ones to do that are common and not kind of complicated to do. So here, my first dish here is a pasta dish. I made it with rotini pasta, or you can make it with fusilli. Those are my two favorite to use with this dish because it helps catch up all the sauce and the vegetables. Here I have some red peppers. I have some onions. You can really put anything you want. I have the recipe, of course, that you can see at the bottom or attached. Also here I added pesto. Now pesto is a great healthy fat. So it has the olive oil in it, it has pine nuts in it, it has basil. So I would just control how much olive oil is in there. So sometimes making it on your own and crushing everything seems like a lot of work, but it actually isn't. It's quite quick. And you can make it in bulk and freeze it, so it's quite easy. And this is a great quick summer dish to have that has all the healthy vegetables in it and very Mediterranean, including all the extra legumes you can put in here too, beans, olives, you can put a whole bunch in here. The next one I have here is a wheat berry salad. Now, some people might not be familiar with wheat berry. When you do get it from the store, it's dry. You have to kind of simmer it for about an hour on the stove so it softens because you get them hard. But the fiber content in here and the healthy fats is amazing. And again, this is another cold salad, good for summertime. And it has vegetables in here and the wheat berries. And I put a nice lemon vinaigrette in here, so I'm limiting the amount of fat by not using salad dressing from the store, but using a white vinegar and a lemon juice and some herbs, and it'll be great. And of course, I have some avocado. My favorite is guacamole, so I love making guacamole and using the healthy avocado instead of buying it at the store. It's super easy to make at home, so I definitely encourage you to make it at home.
Michelle, I love avocados. I have a couple of recipes that I would like to share with you. So my first one is my guacamole with smoked salmon and poached egg. So let's start by making the guacamole. Cut a dozen cherry tomatoes in small pieces. Remove the seeds from one jalapeno and cut in small pieces as well. Finely chop 1/2 of a red onion. Now to add some crunch to my guacamole, I'm using a red pepper. Cut in small pieces as well. Also add about a dozen of finely chopped Kalamata olives and a small bunch of cilantro or parsley. Cut and scoop 2 avocados in a bowl and add the juice of 1 lime. Mash the avocados with a fork, add all your chopped vegetables, salt, pepper, 2 or 3 tablespoons of olive oil, and mix well. Check for seasoning, and your guacamole is done. Now to the poached egg. Crack the egg into a small strainer to remove the watery part. Bring a medium pot of water to a gentle boil. Add a tablespoon of white vinegar and stir the water in a circular motion to create a vortex. Add the egg and gently poach for about 2 minutes. Remove with a slotted spoon and immediately submerge into icy water. And now we can assemble our guacamole with smoked salmon and poached egg. Start by spreading a generous amount of guacamole on 2 pieces of toasted pumpernickel bread. Add a few slices of smoked salmon. Add your poached egg on top. A pinch of salt on the egg. A pinch of black pepper. Now I've also added a bunch of arugula microgreens to the dish. And when you cut into the egg, it should be soft and runny. And there you have it. Guacamole with smoked salmon and poached egg. An amazing dish full of healthy fats, perfect for any time of the day. My second recipe is an avocado chocolate mousse. Add 1 medium avocado and 1 banana in a food processor. Pulse until it's all well mixed. Add 3 scoops of cocoa powder, a pinch of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, and mix well. Clean the sides of the processor to ensure that everything is well blended. Add 3 or 4 tablespoons of maple syrup, and there you have it. Your chocolate avocado mousse is done. Transfer to a bowl, add a few more chocolate chips, decorate with some raspberries, and let it chill for a couple of hours. My favorite chocolate mousse, deliciously healthy. So the bottom line, Michelle, is that fats are an important part of our diet. But it's still important that we control how much we eat of it because they're all very high in calories. And we need to incorporate foods that contain more monosaturated and polyunsaturated, eliminate the trans fats, and eat saturated fats in moderation. And if we do that, we can improve our heart health and improve our quality of life.
Absolutely. So just keep in mind that for your total day, the amount of fat you eat should only be 20% of the calories that you're consuming. So it's a very small amount, and there's a lot of things and fun things you can do with recipes just to swap it out and try some new fun things.
Michelle, thank you very much for your masterclass, and we'll see you again in another episode of Tony's Healthy Kitchen.
Thank you. I hope that this has been helpful for everybody, and just have fun in the kitchen, try new things. We're so lucky now with the internet. We have tons of availability for recipes, to look up stuff, and to try new things. So hope everyone stays healthy and well.
Well, thank you again, Michelle, and thank you to all of you for dropping by my kitchen, Tony's Healthy Kitchen. I hope you have enjoyed all of our episodes and have been able to try some of our healthy and delicious recipes. I'm looking forward to seeing you all again. Until then, be well and stay healthy.